Okay. So on your left, right here, this is Seth's. On your right, this is mine. So I know that we have slightly different tiers, but we're just gonna base it on the correctness of the tiers, right? So uh Seth had the 14 to 17 wins. I just had the 13 plus. Practically speaking, it's all gonna result in the same amount because you're just putting them in win totals. So we will start here from the bottom. I'll just go through the actual, teams from bottom to the top, and we'll see who got the most right and who got the most wrong. So, and briefly talk about them if there's really much to say. So, I already kind of talked about the top 10 worst teams, so we'll kind of briefly go through them. Tennessee, 3 total wins. So Seth had them in the 1 to 3, so that's one, and I also had them in the 0 to 3. So that's one for the both of us. Yeah. Will Levis was not good. I remember Lions fans saying they wanted Will Levis. That's all I'll say about that. The Cleveland Browns, they finished 3-14. Oh man, we just both put the Browns in the four, at least 4 win territory. So unfortunately, we are both incorrect about the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I guess I thought Deshaun Watson would be a little bit better, like just a pinch better. But no, it was none to be, and that I was just is a year from hell for the Cleveland Browns. They should go back to the that logo without the white face mask because they play like they played with that white face mask basically all year. So New York Giants 3-14. Seth had them in the 4 win territory, so he was wrong. But I successfully predicted the Giants being absolute dog water with 3 wins. Yeah, I mean, basically, as soon as Daniel Jones got sent away to the Shadow Realm, that's when you knew things were not good in New York. Uh, I don't know what's his name, Brian Daboll really does for them. He had one good year where they unexpectedly made the playoffs and won a playoff game, but I mean, basically ever since then, it's just been downhill. And you could say it's Daniel Jones, you could say it's the roster, you could say whatever. He's a part of the problem in a way. I mean, yeah, at least he's in the problem. So yeah, this is a rough year for the G-men, but it was pretty expected. The Patriots, however, they get to 4 wins, and we both get this wrong. I thought they would be just a 3 win team. Okay. So far, no major embarrassments. And I know the team that's right there next to them. You shut up about that. All right. We'll talk about that when we get to that. All right. Yeah, Patriots were bad. Drake May, rookie quarterback. He looked pretty good for the most part. He could definitely grow and be a better quarterback. But didn't really expect much. They fired their coach. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to be that bad. But yeah, they did that. So Jacksonville, 4 wins. I did have them in the 4 win category. Wow. And so did Seth. We both had them in the 4 win category at least. Yeah, I mean, I was not much of a believer in Trevor Lawrence after last year. That utter collapse, I think, said a lot more about who he was than that kind of rally that he had the year prior. Unfortunately, injuries have sort of stifled any development he could get. You fire your coach, it's never a good sign. Yeah, it's not looking good in North Florida. I was gonna say South Florida, but Jacksonville's like on the Panhandle, I believe. So yeah, too bad for my fellow Cat team. We got the Las Vegas Raiders with 4 wins, whom I also had in the 4 win category, and so did Seth. I gotta say, I want to say my brother pointed this out. I'm pretty good at identifying teams that are gonna be really bad for the most part. Ignore this for just a moment. All right, ignore that. But yeah, I mean the Raiders. As much as I thought I think I probably thought they would be on the higher end of that 4-6, but they ended up with just the 4 wins, so I got it right. Just didn't think it would be that bad, and I didn't think a lot of these teams are firing their head coaches. I'm beginning to sense a pattern in these worst teams. The New York Jets. Now, this was one that I was also very bold on, and Seth also got it right. He did not believe in the Jets. I thought the Jets were going to be terrible. There were many people who were so high on the Jets. I was one of the few. I don't know if I was one of the few. I was one of the people who was not high on the Jets. And for the exact reasons that I thought they would fail, they failed. Aaron Rodgers did not live up to the hype. That roster was good in 2019, maybe. And Robert Saleh, he gets canned largely not of his own volition, not of his own fault. Just the team is just dysfunctional. And the team that Aaron Rodgers went to was going to end up the way that Aaron Rodgers wanted it to be, and it just was a disaster, a complete and utter disaster. So, Carolina Panthers, they get 5 wins. I just said the New York Jets. They had 5 wins. The Panthers, they get 5 wins. So we both get this right, or both get this wrong, I should say. Yeah, I mean, but do you blame us? Okay. Oh, I keep doing that. I wish you would save like the color for the last one. Like, do you really blame us? All right. It's the Carolina Panthers. The fact that they won 5 games, that's an amazing success for them. Bryce Young looked like he might have been taking a nice step forward. So, good for Carolina. I hope that it's something they can build off of and get back to being competitive. But yeah, I mean, I didn't expect much, and they exceeded expectations, so good for them. New Orleans Saints, 5 wins. Yeah, got it right. Got it right. Seth did not get it right, though. Seth thought they were going to be much worse. So he thought they'd be much worse. I thought they would be about where they seem to always be, which is that middle of the pack, not quite, top 5 pick bad. But yeah, it started off, you thought this team was 2-0 at the beginning of the season. People might forget. They were 2-0 at the beginning of the season. But then Derek Carr started to play the way Derek Carr has played for the past half decade, which is not good. And then he gets hurt, and the roster itself is just terrible. So yeah, it wasn't really all that big of a surprise to me. I don't know if New Orleans fans even want to talk about this team. Being a sports fan in New Orleans must be terrible. You got the Pelicans, which I guess they have Zion, at least sometimes. But then you have the Saints, man. They're back into Aints territory at this point. They've been so bad since Drew Brees retired. It's pitiful. Then we got Chicago in the 5-win territory. And of course, I had to be too nice of a guy. That's my biggest problem. That's my biggest flaw. I was too nice of a guy. I thought that they would get to the 7-win total. They did not. They got to just 5 wins. Seth was a lot higher on the Bears than I was. And unfortunately, he was tricked by the allure of Caleb Williams. We were both a little bit tricked, but I was much less tricked. So, yeah, the Bears, a very disappointing team. Matt Eberflus deserved to be fired after Thanksgiving. He'd probably deserve to be fired going into the year. Yeah, it was bad. Caleb Williams, maybe he'll develop into a good quarterback, but he so far is on bust watch. I'll just leave it at that. It's a very bad rookie year for Caleb Williams. San Francisco. This is probably the one that we both got burned on the worst. Yeah. San Francisco. Seth had him at least 14 wins. Jeez. I had him at least 10, which is, not as bad, but yeah, injuries. Injuries just completely destroyed him. No Christian McCaffrey for the first few weeks. Your offensive line was beat up. Yeah, you lose Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel decides to stop playing football for money. It was bad. It was bad. If you were a San Francisco fan, the only fun you had was when George Kittle had the football. And then Brock Purdy got hurt at the end of the year. It was bad. It was very bad. Incredibly disappointing year for San Fran. The Dallas Cowboys. Oh, I was right. I got it. Yes. My hatred pays off. I thought the Cowboys would fall off, and I was right. They just got to that 7-win threshold. Seth, on the other hand, did not get that right. He thought they would get to at least 9. He was wrong. Because whenever you believe, for one, the Cowboys had a very terrible offseason. They really didn't do much of note. And their final few games of the season, the year going into this, were just awful. They should have lost to the Lions. Some might even say they actually did. And then their playoff game was pitiful. So they don't even make the playoffs this year, and they get to just 7 total wins, finish with the number 12 spot in the draft. So couldn't have happened to a nicer team. We'll just leave it at that. Miami Dolphins, they get 8 wins. I was a lot higher on the Dolphins than I probably should have been. I had them at 10 wins at least. They finished with just 8. Seth also was a little bit too high. A little too high on the Dolphins. They finished with 9 wins, or at least 9 wins for him. In reality, they go 8-9. Injuries plagued this team. Tua Tagovailoa did not stay healthy, which is incredibly disappointing. They had to deal with that for much of the season and pretty much since after he went down and had a terrible game against the Bills in what was it, week 2. The season basically ended there, and the Miami fans just didn't know it yet. They had a little bit of a resurgence there where maybe they could have made the playoffs, but it was a little bit of a too little too late, it seemed, for the Miami Dolphins. So unfortunate. The Indianapolis Colts, though, 8 wins. Where did I have them? I had them at 4 wins. Okay, I did not believe in the Colts at all whatsoever. Yeah. They do manage to exceed some expectations, but yeah, they were very mid. Anthony Richardson is not him. Joe Flacco also evidently not him either. So a very disappointing year for the Colts. Shane Steichen is probably on the hot seat at this point. Anthony Richardson has not gotten better. If anything, he's potentially gotten worse. So yeah, if you're the Colts, they're basically the AFC version of the Saints, which is funny because those teams played each other in the Super Bowl. I guess at this point, it's more than a few years ago, but many years ago. Yeah, it's just a weird team. I really don't have a whole lot positive to say about them, so we'll just move along. The Atlanta Falcons, they finish with 8 wins. I had them right in that range, right in the middle there. 8 to 9 or 7 to 9 wins. I did think that Kirko and Seth also got that one right with the 7 to 8 wins. I did think that Kirk would have been a little bit better than he ended up being. I was a little flabbergasted by the Michael Penix pick, but you know what? It seems like it might have worked out for them. And I'll admit, blame for that, or disparaging them for that, because I didn't really understand it. But look, Kirk Cousins did not have a full season's worth of football left in him. And Michael Penix, he took over. The ship was already basically sunk. But, maybe he'll find some success there. I think they have some weapons. You got Drake London. You got Bijan. You have guys. It's just a matter of, are you able to take advantage of having said guys? Well, to me, it's a little unclear as to whether or not Raheem Morris is going to be able to do that. So, moving along here, we got the Arizona Cardinals, who finished with 8 wins. So Seth also getting that one right. He's very good with the bird teams, it seems. I also get this one correct. Yeah, I did think that maybe they could have made a little bit of a run for the playoff. I did see them on the higher end of that 7 to 9. I thought maybe Kyler Murray with a full season and with Marvin Harrison Jr. things would be a lot more fun in Arizona. But yeah, now you're going to have to take a hard look at whether or not you're going to run it back with Kyler again. The thing is, I don't really know if you have any other option, but he just has never really gotten back to that form where they won the 12 games and lost in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah, I think they won 12 games. I don't remember exactly how many games they won, but when they got that first round exit in the playoffs after a second half collapse, or a second half of the season collapse, that was pretty much the last good of the Arizona Cardinals, at least recently. So kind of a mid season for them. Cincinnati with 9 wins. Seth actually gets this one right. Amazingly. On the low end, he had them at a 9-win pace. I had them at least 10, which if they would have just beaten stupid New England in week 1, if they would have just not been terrible. And speaking of terrible, I'm surprised that Zach Taylor still has a job. I saw they fired their, I think it was one of their coordinators. I'm surprised that Zach Taylor is sticking around. Like, look, going to a Super Bowl really does give you a lot of insurance as far as getting fired, but man, talk about a disappointing year for the Bengals. I expected a whole lot more from Joe Burrow. I thought they'd be a really fun, exciting team. They were not. They were largely unexciting until the final 5 games of the year when they won 5 in a row. But yeah, they were just terrible on defense. Joe Burrow was their entire team. Jamar Chase was their entire team. This is bad. This is a disappointing year. Seattle finishing 10-7. Where did I have Seattle? I was not high on them. I thought they would finish with. Oh, undo that. Where am I? There we are. I did not believe Seattle was gonna be a 10-win team. Uh, it's a good start for Mike McDonald. Seth also was not very high on the Seahawks, but I mean, at this point, I think it's clear Geno Smith is not him. I think they should start investigating what they should do at the quarterback position. Unfortunately, because they won those 10 games, they were just shy of the wild card, and so they're unable to really draft one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class. Maybe they'll make something work with maybe one of the later guys. I don't know. Like it's one of those things though where I think it's pretty clear Geno Smith is just not gonna lead you anywhere further than where you've gotten. You're pretty much at your ceiling with Geno. So you're gonna have to take something of a risk. You're gonna have to either build a really elite roster around him and sort of insulate him, or you're just gonna have to look another way. And I think you probably should just look another way. On to Houston, 10-7 or 10-7. Their record. I was much higher on Houston than I really should have been. Uh, look, I really liked what they did in their offseason. I loved that they went out. They got Steph Diggs. They got oh my gosh, what's his name? Guy out of Minnesota. Oh my gosh, I wanted the Lions to go get him. Oh my gosh, hold on now. I gotta look up Houston Texans roster defense. Let's see. NFL roster on defense. Daniil Hunter. Daniil Hunter. That was a huge offseason addition. I thought that was really gonna just help push them over the edge a little bit. But the problem really wasn't their defense, it was their offense. Their offense could not score. I mean, look, you had injuries to wide receivers. Obviously, Nico Collins with a horrific injury against KC. But CJ Stroud had a really not a great year. A sophomore slump would be putting it nicely. He really did not play well. And, you know, that included primetime games. We saw the collapse against Detroit on Sunday Night Football. Everybody saw that. It was bad. It was, not the year that you expected for them. Oh, Seth also got them wrong. I didn't even X them out for him. Yeah, it was not a good year for the Texans. I think a lot of people were very high on them, but they really disappointed. They can still, make a run here in the playoffs, but a very disappointing regular season, that's for sure. The Broncos finished with 10-7. Seth, not high on the Broncos. He had them at least 7 wins. I was also not particularly high on them. I was close. It was hard because it was rookie quarterback. I didn't really believe in Sean Payton. I still don't really believe in Sean Payton, but they make the playoffs and they get to that 10-win mark. Maybe you got something with Bo Nix. You're going to have to build a lot more around him, I think. But at the very least, you get some playoff experience, and that could be vital. So I guess congrats to the Broncos for exceeding expectations very slightly. Tampa Bay gets 10 wins. I didn't think they would get to that mark again, but they did. Where did Seth put the Buccaneers? Seth did not like the Buccaneers. Wow. Seth hates Tampa. If you're from Tampa, Seth hates you, basically. Yeah, it was a good year for Tampa Bay. Continue to win that division. Baker continuing to be a above average quarterback, a really solid quarterback that can win you games, a feisty quarterback, a tough one to play. Look, he was one of the 2 losses for the Lions this year. Like I can't I can't dunk on the Buccaneers. They're a really feisty team, a hard team to beat. Now whether or not they'll make a run here in the playoffs, that has yet to be seen. They're gonna have to beat the Commanders first. Following them, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-7. Seth believed this would be the year for Mike Tomlin to finally get a losing record. Now, I also believe it would be the year Tomlin would get a losing record. I was much less high on the Steelers. I really did not think the combination of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at quarterback was going to do anything for their offense but make it potentially worse. They were carried by their defense largely, and there were points where Russ really seemed like he was cooking back into his Seattle form, but no. It was all an illusion, a mirage. It was all just fugazi, as they say. So, yeah, Pittsburgh's good, but not great, which has basically been the standard for a pretty long time. The Rams get 10 wins. I did not think they would get to that mark. Geez, now I feel like I've gotten like a really bad streak here of getting a bunch of these wrong. Seth, similarly, not believing them. There was a lot of teams that I think that certainly exceeded expectations. The Rams, I don't know, like I think they basically lived up to the exact reputation that I thought most people had about them, which is that they're a solid team, but maybe their defense is still lacking. I think their defense is still lacking, and the injuries to their offense really hindered their total of wins that they could have ended up at, but they still ended up with the 10-7. So yeah, I mean, a pretty good year for them. They're back in the playoffs. They're hosting a playoff game for the first time in a couple of years here. So, since they won the Super Bowl, I believe it was the last time they were hosting a playoff game. And that was actually the Super Bowl they hosted. So, yeah. Then you got the Green Bay Packers. They get 11-6. I was not high on the pack. I thought they would not. I thought Jordan Love would regress to the mean. Seth, however, believed. He was a believer. All right. Now, it's funny because I am far harsher on the NFC North rivals compared to Seth, which is you can actually notice the rivalries. Like for the most part, we're pretty similar with the Raiders and the Broncos, but he was not as high on the Chiefs. Well, I guess he was in the same category, but he was not as high on the Chiefs necessarily. It's interesting. Anyway, Packers, as although they won 11 games, they were 1-5 in their division. They lose to the Bears to end the year. They lose to the Vikings and the year, like back-to-back games. They I think the last time they won a division game, the last time they won the division game was when they played the Bears on the road. But I don't know how many division losses in a row that would be then. Yeah, it just seemed like at every moment where they had a chance to prove themselves, they just didn't do it. They just did not perform there. Jordan Love getting hurt at the end of the year doesn't bode well. He was getting hurt at the beginning of the year. The fact that they still got to 11 wins is impressive given the injuries. But yeah, definitely, I don't think a world beater of a team. But, I was much less high on them. All right. Final 7. Yeah, wait, hold on. Final 8, not 7. We got the Chargers. Seth's Chargers, 11 wins. Seth did not believe didn't mean to do that. Seth did not believe in his Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego. However, I also did not believe. I thought maybe I did. Yeah. I mean, Chargers definitely exceeding expectations. I didn't think they would have the offensive firepower to be able to get to that 11 win mark. But Jim Harbaugh, man, he's a heck of a football coach. He can get the most out of his guys, and he certainly did. A really solid defense there in LA and a decent enough offense. Quentin Johnston, I think, earning a lot more respect compared to what he had last year. And, as well as guys like, oh my gosh, the guy out of Georgia. Oh, what's his name? The receiver. I'm Malik Neighbors. Oh my gosh. Lad McConkey. Solid wide receiver there for LA. Overall, pretty good year. Good for them, exceeding my expectations. I'm beginning to notice a trend here. I'm not doing particularly well. This is highly embarrassing. No wonder I do this. The Commanders finished 12-5. I did not believe, and neither did Seth. Look, Washington was just one of those teams where, I guess at a certain point, eventually you think maybe they strike gold. And it seems like they did with Jaden Daniels. I think he's easily going to win the Rookie of the Year. A very impressive year for the Commies. And good for them for making the playoffs. Maybe they'll make some noise. I don't know how much noise, but a little bit. Maybe. Don't hold your breath. Baltimore Ravens 12-5. This one I finally got one right. Finally. Here we go. Ravens, they get to that 12 win mark. Yeah, I mean, they're a very good team. Very good team. Lamar Jackson having probably his best year ever, and probably going to win the MVP. Seth, however, was not as high on the Ravens. Oh my. Seth, very negative about the Baltimore Ravens. Incredibly negative. Not nice, Seth. Don't be negative. Yeah, I mean, very good team. Very, yeah, like that. I don't know what else to say. Very good team. That's about all I got. Like Derrick Henry has been an awesome acquisition for that offense. Whether or not their secondary is going to be able to survive the playoffs, we have yet to see. But certainly a really, really elite job by Lamar Jackson to get them to this point. Another division title for him, and who knows, maybe more. Then we get to Minnesota. All right. I'm gonna just both of us got it wrong. Obviously, I was far less wrong, or I was far. Oh, whoops. Okay, there we go. I was far more harsh with our friends down in Minnesota. Up, cross. Um, yeah, Sam Darnold definitely performed a lot better at quarterback than I think most people expected. The fact that they got to 14 wins is absurd. They're easily the most surprising team of the season. Now, do I think it's going to lead to playoff success? Absolutely not. But either way, a good year for Minnesota. Sort of out of nowhere. I mean, you thought with JJ McCarthy going down, there was no shot, but it is what it is. So now, final four teams here. Buffalo with 13 wins. This one I got wrong, just shy of that. Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen playing at an MVP level. I thought maybe with the departure of Steph Diggs, it might take a little bit of a step back, but Allen was still going to be a really good player. He's managed to take advantage despite the lack of that elite receiver. I mean, who knows? Maybe it seems like he could have even gotten better without uh, what's his name? Without Steph Diggs. Seth also was not very high on the Bills either. I assume similar reasons. Just thought maybe the departure of Steph Diggs was going to have a much bigger impact on him, but Josh Allen managed to take advantage of the guys he had. Keon Coleman in the draft, a solid pickup for them, solid rookie. Will probably be a good receiver for them for years to come. So, good year for Buffalo. And then Philadelphia. Seth also got them wrong by just a game. I was also wrong about them. They get to the 14 win. Geez, a lot of teams this year got to the 13-14 win mark. It's pretty amazing. I guess just a lot of these really good teams played a lot of these really bad teams. Just thinking about it, I know the Lions, they played obviously they played the Titans, they played the Jaguars, they played the Seahawks. I mean, they ended up being uh much better. They played the Cowboys, they played the Cardinals, you know. They played no, they didn't play the Falcons. But yeah. Eagles though, I think Saquon just did a lot for that offense after a really bad end of the year last year. They certainly got back to that level where they are, technically speaking, one of the teams that could go out and win the Super Bowl. I don't think it will happen, but that's just me. Kansas City, they get to 15 wins. Also got that one wrong. I will say though, it was an ugly 15 wins. And their second, like for all intents and purposes, they were 16-1. That second loss to end the year, it was a nothing game. Carson Wentz was playing. They didn't really care about the result. But once again, the Chiefs are at top of the AFC, and the path to the Super Bowl is as easy as it could be for them. So, yeah. And then finally, the Lions. Seth and I both incredibly high on the Detroit Lions, and they lived up to the expectation. Look, I said they were a 13+ win team. I thought they could win the Super Bowl. I still think they can win the Super Bowl. I'm glad I've gotten my team right. That's got to count for something. You know, maybe I get like triple points for that. That's got to count for something. But yeah, Lions elite. I mean, despite the injuries to the defensive side, their offense is unstoppable. Jameson Williams has come out and really become a major piece in the offense. Amon-Ra continues to be an elite receiver. Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery, the whole. I could go down the list. Very good football team. They lived up to the expectations and then some, I'd say. So now we count how many we each got right. So tallying it up, Seth got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Just gonna draw a 9 there. And then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I didn't even, should have. There we go. I'll make it a little bigger. 11 for me. So I don't remember who won last year, but hey, I got 11 out of the 32 teams correct. That's pretty good. That's almost a third. I think that is a little over a third. Yeah, because a third, if there were 33 teams, a third would be 11. I don't know how the math works. But hey, look, I do this to sort of show the people that, look, beginning of the year, you might think you have an idea of who's going to be good. You might think that people who don't agree with you are crazy. But you look at both of these graphs, if you started at the beginning of the year, none of these really, I think, were that crazy to suggest. And a lot of these end up looking stupid, especially the Minnesota one, and the Texans one, and the Chiefs one, and the Commanders one. I'm not perfect, all right? As much as you might think I am, I'm not.
Hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.